Hello and welcome to you all, and I'm so happy to share with you a very special watch today. We are really proud to present to you one of the nicest Rolex GMT 1675 we have seen in a long time, and maybe one of the best in the market right now. Not only very special in its condition, but also featuring some great special details. So stay with me and discover all about this rare beauty. Every now and then you find a watch that really blows your mind and touches your heart. Not only because it is, rare and very exclusive, but because every time you take it out of the box into the light, it makes you smile big time and over again. Really a true beauty this one is. Every twist of your wrist opens up a warm palette of creamy tones, and in the combination with the depths of that killer, deep black gilt dial, it truly, you can get lost into it. Really a true beauty. And then there is the amazing case we believe to be unpolished and showing all the amazing, details of the bevel locks we all love so much. One of my favorite details of the 50 and 60 sport Rolex watches, offering so much detail and richness to the watch on your wrist with every twist of your arm. This is truly a trophy watch, not only in its condition and looks, but there's so much more to it. This 1675 GMT exceeds not only in a condition, but also in its details and features. The watch features the rare 1675 Gilt Underline Dial, only seen in a short period of time and in a specific serial range in the early 1960s. Absolute cool and prestige detail. I will get back into it later on in this video, so stay tuned with me. The watch itself is from 1964, and also this 6251 Jubilee bracelet is marked 364, so also the original bracelet. It offers all the classic GMT look with this nice, what I like, folded bracelet. And I like it so much because it makes the case stand out more than the later integrated look and feel of the solid bracelets that came later on. So for me, a really cool look on this one. The Pepsi inlay has aged into amazing hues of purple and faded red, which adds even more warmth and mojo to the total look of the watch. Really gives it that full vintage vibe. But this goes further, and the watch offers also original papers, and it's a really special surprise to me. The watch was sold in 1965 in Kuwait, as stated on the papers, and comes also with a dealer stamp. And this package holds also a very special little extra thing to it. A little booklet comes from Rolex, a printed leaflet stating that Rolex created the GMT for Pan Am. So we have seen advertisement and all kind of things, where this is related to, but the first time for me to see a written document, also with a dealer stamp and printed also Rolex and Pan Am, where they state that this is, actually developed for Pan Am. It's in Arabic, and the friend really, translated it to us. So it truly is a Grail GMT package, and as said, the prestige detail of the watch is the underline dial. Most collectors interested in such rare Grail watches will know, of course, where it stands for, but I'm happy to share with you a bit of the insights into the rare dial specifications with all you watch lovers. For a long time, this little line found on Rolex dials has been a mystery and part of big debates on forums and in the community. But the consensus over the last years is that it's an added line to mark the use of a lower radiation luminous materials on the dials. To understand the wider scope of this, it is important to talk about two important subjects related to Rolex and the watch industry in the early 50s and also up to in the early 60s. Back then, in the 50s, when most of the tool watches and sport Rolex watches we cherish today have been developed, the luminous quality of these dials and hence had been achieved by use of radium mixtures and radium material. These early mixtures had a high level of radiation, and in the time health agencies in different markets started to raise alarms, and certain markets had even forbidden use of such high radiation lume. And Rolex already started to experiment with different mixtures end of the 50s and in the early 60s to switch to a low radiation. But still, also radium was loose back then. A lot of the change was triggered by the radium girls. The radium girls were ladies who worked in the dial manufacturing facilities in the United States and often died as a result of being exposed to radium while painting the dials, putting on the little markers on it, and painting the hands. Radium was commonly used by applications where luminescence was essential for example clocks, watches, and many military instruments. The girls were told to point their paintbrushes using their lips instead of close to avoid unnecessary wastage. Imagine. They developed terrible tumors on their faces and the mouth and filed lawsuits against their employees. So for a while, radium was actually thought to have even, imagine that, healing properties. So it was used in drinks, toothpaste, and even in hair creams. Crazy, isn't it, if you look at this today? Still, however, it was used in watches until the early 60s, while the danger was, and still is, quite low for the wearer because, the watch is sitting under a sealed plexi, on top of it. Of course, it was in considerable danger for the manufacturers and watchmakers who had to work with them. So in the USA, the use of radium got forbidden, and Rolex had to find different mixtures and different material, to still have the function of their watches. So that's one part. The second important understanding for the watch industry back then was that Rolex and many brands back then have not been those oiled, all-in-house production machines that we think of them today. No, but they used many suppliers for parts like dials, hands, cases, inlays, all kinds of parts of the watches. So Rolex ordered these parts in batches from their suppliers and stored them ready, when the watch had to be assembled in batches, or when an AD or dealer ordered a certain batch of watches, they would assemble the watches out of these parts. That is why you see so many differences in serial number years versus the case back, bracelet, clasp codes, all parts ready on the shelf and united in assembly once a new batch was needed, or often, there was a month or even a few months or up to 1-2 years difference, but depending, on the demand and popularity of a model. Rolex never wasted any parts in their life, so they used what they had. So back then in the early 60s, Rolex still had these dials in stock that had been printed and marked Swiss at 6 o'clock, which is related to radium dials. So it's believed that back then these gilt dials had been stocked as unfinished dials without the luminous material attached to them. And once, with the new rules had been in place, Rolex wanted to assemble the watches, but they needed some kind of a sign to differentiate these dials from the high radiation radium dials they used before. So it's widely believed that, first the exclamation mark and later on the underline mark symbolized these old production dials as being low radiation instead of the high radiation before. And after these dials had been used, they got replaced by tritium dials that were marked Swiss, T lower than 25 for new luminous material. The early to the end of the mid-60s tritium dial used by Rolex still grows strongly, even today, when you hit them with UV or sunlight. They use the zinc sulfide mixture that has that typical green glow still till today, and I will dive deeper into that kind of material and all these kind of details in a series to help you get your way into vintage Rolex, but in a good way, and learn about what I have learned over the years. So here you go. This trophy underline GMT is freshly serviced and ready for you. We hope it will find a great new home where it will enjoy all the love it deserves. And I hope you will enjoy it to the fullest also. Check out our website and see more images and all the details about the watch, or contact me if you have any questions. And please follow our YouTube channel for more videos on special watches and vintage watches in general, also with new series in the future. And enjoy your watch passion, and I hope to see you back again soon.